All right, everybody. Welcome to Foresight Scans. Just giving you some live examples of the last week we've traded here. Don't remember everything that we traded, but I quickly went through in chat the Foresight ideas, the main ideas, the 90% ideas that I brought to the attention of members. And so, yeah, I'll just start on the 18th. We'll go through the 21st. Hopefully, take about 10 minutes and show you guys some of the examples of trades that you would be getting from the scan if you were part of it. So first one here is HGSH, well-known Chinese pump and dump company. Had some news gaps. It was gapping the day before, gapped a little bit today. Wasn't super significant, but it was a good 20% or so. And I knew who was long. I knew who was pumping it on Twitter. It was a bit of an Atlas pump room chat thing, and I looked at the levels, to see if I was interested. And so, what I did, it was around 210. I saw pre-market highs were around 220. And so, the first thing I do is understanding the news. So I understood who was long, and I knew his Atlas was long. I was understanding the fundamentals behind it, the revenues of an earnings release, which was ridiculous. And, just the different time frames during the pre-market highs. Then also going back and looking at the technical analysis behind it. If we go back to 60-minute chart, you can see a little bit of a resistance here, 245, 250-ish. You go to the weekly chart, very much sold in this above this area, about right here. All the candles are completely sold up to that $3 level. 250 here is heavily sold as well. So it looks like resistance starts around 250. Gets heavier above 3. So, I said if it gets up to around 3, as long as it doesn't hold 3, then I'd like to hammer this short. Anything below 3, and I'm 90% sure that it's going to fade like it always has back to around 0. So that was the plan for HGSH. Was a 1 to 2 day hold. If it didn't hold to the full, if it didn't fade to the full 190s right away on the first day, then we would hold it to the next day. As you can see here a few days later, 185 is what it hit. So depending on how long you held it, I think the first day here, it only came down to, I'll just bring up the chart again here. It's around $2. So it wasn't a full fade. So depending on how greedy you were, but the setup for the first day, obviously pay yourself most of $2. And if you want to get the rest of the meat of the move for the full fade, 180s, 190s, you can hold on for an extra day. But what I really wanted to do was short versus 3. So I wasn't interested in shorting at 216, but I said, hey, you know what? If this pops over 250s, towards 3, we'll hammer in short and at the backside. And, you have your clear risk, on $3 holds. You can start in here 1/10, 1/4, whatever you feel very comfortable, unemotional with, into strength. And then once it rejected twice here, it was an obvious backside at 10 a.m. And you can add some pops. Covering most into 2 if you want to swing some to 180s, 190s. So this was a 90% setup I had on the 18th. Was HGSH. So again, those are the technicals, the fundamentals, reasons, the time frames that I had behind that. The next one on the 18th was Mito. Let's take a look and see. Mito was a company that ran recently. It actually ran. Yeah, it was a huge volume day, massive volume day. I always look at the VWAP of the prior volume day runner, and that's the reason it ran today. It was the only reason on the 18th was because it had recently run, and everybody wanted a piece of it again. And so that's why it was running, and so I knew that, and I knew it was just on stupid financing news. So I knew the news. I knew the news was worth 0. I knew that I had a clear high volume, very high volume resistance here on the VWAP. I remember this day was also insanely overbought with insane volume, so I knew that this VWAP was overrated. So I knew that if it held 2, I was probably wrong. So again, very simple strategy, shorting pops on versus $2 hold, and for a full fade, if not more. Continuation fade from last time, because if something fades twice, it's probably going to fade all the way because investors want out. So, we had a $2, near $2 pre-market high risk. I was hoping for pops. It came down to open Wasn't too interested. Ripped here at open and above 170, exactly the same as HGSH. You can start in 1/4, 1/10. You have a clear risk of $2 hold. We know our technicals, we know our fundamentals, we know who's long, what kind of people are long and whatnot. And the full fade was to 130, which it hit the first day. And yeah, really just adding to the backside again to the move. We have a clear backside here, full death candle rejection. Can add on the pop, risking the high so you don't turn it into a loser. And just continuing to add. Probably would have just covered, 10, I guess that's 11, around 11 o'clock when it's a full fade. Could go lower, but who wants lower? It's a full fade. So perfect plan there. So yeah, again, just showing the value there of the Foresight idea on Mito. One of the things that I do is just talking about making sure you get in the right time frame, making sure you know your risk, and making sure you know your target potential, and just knowing why, the technicals behind it, the confidence behind it, and the news behind it. And that is a quality setup. That is, adding 1,000 shares at 170, even if you're a small account, adding another shares in a strength. You got 2,000 shares at 162, you cover at 132, and that's $400 right there on one of the trades. And if we went back to HGSH, you shorted 1,000 shares in a strength at 250s, let's just say whatever, 255, shorted 1,000 shares, added 1,000 shares on a clear backside. You got 2,000 at 240, cover for 800, maybe even 1,000 if you let it go down another 20 cents the next day on half. So yeah, that's 1,000 on HGSH. That is 400 on, I'm just using small examples here, on Mito, just so you guys can get an idea for a small account what that would look like. And I think I had another one here, ULB, I think it was ULBI that I learned on the day. Yep. So ULBI had a contract. The Army contract sounded crazy cool, sounded awesome. What I was looking at on ULBI was the different levels. I had tweeted on Twitter, my idea was to, I believe it was versus 12 or 13, 12 or 13 hold, and the reason for that was looking at the chart from where it gapped up. Had gapped up on the day that it ran after hours to 11, that's not the right day. Here we go. So the day that it gapped up here was to 12, 12s, right? So, I know about 1260s or so would be a reasonable range. If it holds that, I'm probably wrong for sure. I know that the contract it's not worthless, but I said it was worth about 9s. It actually did pay to about 9s in a couple of days. And yeah, it's the all-time highs. As you can see on a contract here, it's it's kind of a recurring contract with the Army. It's nothing too special. It was a pretty large contract, so I did think it was worth something, and it's been holding around 850s. So yeah, sure, worth 950s. Why not? But definitely not worth 11s for sure. And just didn't seem like it's never really run before. It didn't really seem like a pumpable stock. So we know the stocks, we know the news, we know the technicals behind this. Behind this name, and so we had a clear after hours risk from the prior day of 12s, and the high for the pre-market on this day was only 1130. So I said pops on 12, we're definitely interested, and sure enough, it opened here with pop at 1160s, just giving us an absolute gift. Again, you can short. And relative to the other ones we'd be comparing to, probably only 300, 500 shares. We'll just say 300 shares. Why not? We'll be very conservative. 300 shares versus 1260s hold, and adding to a winner. Now, depending on how you want to do this, generally stocks tend to base around 1030, so you definitely want to take some profits. That's 1009. That's almost our 950s target. So you definitely want to cover half, if not 2/3. And not just because it went back up, but because you are literally at your target here, and it's 1030, and so that is your pay point, even potentially here where it's on the trend line there. But anyways, so shorting 300 shares, you want to add to your backside here probably around 1060s on any kind of pop that you can get probably after it's already washed out. Covered some, added some back in the pop. So potentially you made about a buck and a half here. So let's say 500, 600 bucks. And really the opportunity was over at that point. You can hold a small amount for nines if you want to, 950s in 1-2 days. But the other opportunity that I learned 90% setup on this was that I grinded and grinded and grinded and grinded and grinded until 3 p.m. And then I had a massive stuff here and a death candle down. And at that point, we already know it's worth nines in a few days. We know the time frame. We know this is the exit of the manipulator who is coming up here. And so you can confidently short with 90% certainty this here with a clear risk in about 1130s. That's only a 30-cent risk. So again, you can short 1,000 shares, 300 shares, whatever you feel comfortable with, and maybe an extra $300 here, swinging the rest down to nines. So there was definitely, for sure, $1,000 worth of opportunity here in a small account with 90% setup, I would say. So that is the fundamental and technical analysis time frames behind ULBI. Very easy stuff, guys, very clear stuff, but the idea is that we're not trading everything. We're just trading the things that matter and the setups that matter with a clear risk and a clear target potential and understanding why. The technical analysis, the fundamental analysis, and just everything behind it, just my experience with the different news and whatnot. So that was the 18th of May. We're going to go through a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 10 examples this week, 10 really solid setups. It's actually a slower week. Usually I have at least 2 or 3 per day. So those were the 3 for the 18th. On the 19th, we had 2. We had ONTX. On ONTX, we had 19th. Bum. All right. So the day before, well, let's actually go back to our main chart. ONTX just had a reverse split. That's why it looks nuts like that. So let's get rid of that day. Stock had run up from, where is it? Should be about right there. Yep. Stock had run up from about 0.50s all the way up, to 1 something. And this is on an analyst upgrade with a price target of 4, which is absolutely ridiculous. Shouldn't be worth more than pumping this up to 0.70s at the most. And so, yeah, it was just kind of a ridiculous move. $1 was the obvious compliance for the NASDAQ, was obvious kind of a target point for pumpers and whatnot. And yeah, the stock, had pumped up past 1 on huge volume of day 1, and so we were looking at it on day 2 for a potential fade. And so pre-market highs were about 1. Had about 8 a.m. here, a nice opportunity, 9 a.m. coming into open to start in short. Same small example if you're doing a small account, risking $300, $100, whatever. You can do a couple thousand shares around 0.97 was the setup that I alerted in chat versus 1 hold, and had a nice beautiful wash down here at 1030. I always talk about 10-1030 being about the base when most stocks base. Our target was 0.70s, but always covering half or 2/3 into the wash. And so that was the plan here. It did come all the way back up to 1, but it didn't really break. It didn't really make lower highs over 1, and so there was no stop out there. It did come back down for a cover into the close, but did pretty much hit our target here. I'm just going to actually go straight into ONTX for the next day, just so we don't have to do it twice. It was actually yes, the very next day. So it's still up here around the 20th, and so this was the next alert that I did. This was another 90% setup, and this was essentially news of the reverse split at 0.94. And you have to understand, the stock is up from 0.50s to 0.97. It's almost up 100% on an analyst upgrade for $4 target, and suddenly tomorrow the stock is going to be a $10 stock because the reverse split. So the price target means nothing. Compliance, hold of 1 means nothing for NASDAQ. And it's no longer a penny stock. It's no longer pumpable. It's no longer cool. And so the reason that everybody is long this is gone. It's no longer there. So this is going to fade to 0.70s. And I literally tweeted that longs are stuck, and it's bad, and it's going to 0.70s. And so we know the news. We know who's long. We know the technicals. We know 1. We know everything. Why stock is up, who's long it, and so shorting versus pre-market high hold, clear risk. We have clear risk. We have a clear target. We have a clear time frame by tomorrow because the stock is reverse split tomorrow, and that's exactly what it did. We had a beautiful pop-up opportunity here, red green. Obviously, you can't size in too much here. It was chasing, like I said, but right here, beautiful opportunity to size in several thousand shares, add to a winner in the afternoon. I talked a lot about 1300, 1330, and covering into close before your reverse split to make sure you get out, and any panic wash there, right down there. So that was ONTX a couple days there. Beautiful 90% setup, clear risk, clear reward, clear everything. Next up, we got LPTH on the 19th. So we just got a few more here left, guys. LPTH on the 19th is that's not the right day. 19th. Okay, so we got LPTH. Had gapped up the night before. We're just gonna go to the 5-minute chart here. Had gapped up the night before. Had crossed threes, so squeezed up pretty good. After hours mover. Looking at the year chart here, above 3 in the last little while. Hasn't really gone above 3 in the last little while. Looking at the full year chart, VWAP is around 3, and so I said anything above holding 3, probably going to be wrong, and that's going to be using our guide as well of the. Let's go back here to the 19th. Is going to be our guide, because the news is just so bad that it shouldn't hold 3, and I'm 90% sure of that because the news was they're using some sort of subsidiary, one of their subsidiaries is using a gadget for NASA mission to Mars in 20 years, and it's going to be one of their little pieces of metal components for that, and it was just the dumbest PR I've ever seen, and it was worth nothing, and knowing the stock, knowing the news, knowing the levels, and just being reasonable and saying, what, this holds 3, we're wrong. Here's the pre-market highs, 280s, and so we had a beautiful opportunity here. I started in short, literally at the very top, and so again, just doing 1,000 shares, versus 3, 2,000 shares versus 3, and adding to a winner post 10 a.m. and covering for the full fade gave us a nice opportunity of 40 cents for a nice $1,000 opportunity. On LPTH, again using the example of a small account. That was it for the 19th. On the 20th here, so we just got a few more. CPSH. Huge year chart here. One of the reasons is I wasn't too sure about this chart. Huge year chart, obvious runner. So this stock can run, it can do stuff, but the news was for a recurring contract, a tiny contract of 5 million or so, and very confident in the news that it would fade full, that it was worth absolutely nothing. One of the reasons I was so confident in 90% setup is because it just wasn't pumpable. If it was pumpable, I would have been interested. If shorts get on the wrong side, I'd be interested, but there wasn't enough volume pre-market for the shorts to get stuck. There just wasn't. And so, if millions and millions of volume had come in here, above 8, I would have second guessed and I would have said stop, and I'm wrong. But it was a clear risk, versus 750s, 760s, 790s, 8 hold. So I just said, what, we'll just give it lots of room. We'll just say, 790s. If this thing holds 790s, and the volume comes in, then we're wrong. But 90% chance based on the fundamentals alone and the volume alone, the time frame alone, the news alone, the way the market was moving that day alone, that this would fade to 0, 610s, 620s today or tomorrow, and fade full. And so, we had a clear risk, 790, so you can short, 500 shares, 1,000 shares, and continue to add to your backside. Backside would be confirmed about here, about 10 a.m. After the second or third stuff, and it did fade down to 620, 630s, again paying yourself half or 2/3, and if you want to swing the rest for the next day. This was a great setup on the next day, and it was one of my other alerts for the next day was a day 2. which is shorting versus $7 hold and making sure you get that full fade down to 610s. And that's exactly what happened. It faded all the way down to 610s. And it was a clear risk versus $7 hold. And, you know, as you can see, shorting 1,000 shares, easy $600. The reason I was so intent on $7 hold is a very clear, you know, above key area, key number above VWAP. You know, if it holds above 7 based on yesterday's action, then I'm definitely wrong. And it didn't even go above 7, didn't even go above close. So, but those were two for CPSH, and I think I have one other one here, two other SPCE on the 20th. So same day, SPCE had a stupid rocket launch. There's no reason for this BF at all, and just a huge gapper. I did nail the top to start and short here, but that's not the 90% stuff I want to talk about. You know, just up so much, huge float. And so I said, you know, pops on, obviously it's going to be 23.25 was our ideal target. I wanted to give this room to work, and I hoped for 23 to 25, guys, but I thought it would pop 21.40s, I said in chat. So you can either have the option of shorting 21.40s versus the high, or shorting 21.40s versus 23 to 25, so giving you lots of room to work. So depending on how you traded this, small or large size, you could have done large size and cut it if broke, could have done small size and planned for higher. But either way, the plan was 90% sure based on news flow and everything else. And so, and the target was for 18s, which it did achieve by a little bit later than expected, but you know, it was already almost 18s by the 10:30 mark. So 2/3 or half covered here, adding to a winner. Did add more here, but yeah. SPCE, losing my voice here, it's crazy. Yuan on the 21st was the only really one we traded, but it was a massive and biggest opportunity of the week on Friday. And I nailed every single call on this trade in chat. Yuan was up from, you know, $5 to 10, 11, and squeezed out all the shorts into after hours. And just this stock always fades, always wild, it's up for no reason, and just squeezed everybody out, just a massive squeeze. So I knew all the shorts were squeezed out, but I knew it still wanted to play a little bit the next day. So when it came in here, you know, we took a look at it, and I'll just go back step by step. But there was one clear opportunity that I alerted in chat, and that was I identified 1030s. You can go back to my Twitter and see I said about 1030s. This is way back in 6 a.m. So it was perfect here. 1030s, 1060s, I identified as key level, and came down here to open. And I said, you know what? If it opens around 930s, it's probably going to wash. And if it opens around 950s, it's probably going to squeeze. And sure enough, it washed. And I said, okay, it was a beautiful wash. Probably going to pop on 960. It popped on 960. Came down here. And then I literally said, I've traded this before. I remember back in September that this thing ripped a buck or two into a halter. And I think, guys, that's what it's going to do. And sure enough, we were covering here. We saw it coming. We anticipated it. We were out before this and ripped 980s exactly like I said. 1060s, 1030s was the exact zone from yesterday. It was clear level from after hours yesterday at resistance. It was enough range to squeeze out all the shorts. I knew all the shorts were squeezed out. I knew it was Friday coming to 11 a.m. I knew everybody was walking away, and this was a beautiful stuff build breakout death candle. And this right here, guys, is a 90% setup. You know the news, you know the levels, you know the technicals, you know the who, you know everything, and you know this is a 90% setup, and you know you can hammer this. So even if you got a small account, I'm going all in there. And sure enough, we had another stuff here at 11. You can add. Key risk was 950s, 960s hold. We had a clear risk on any ads. So, you know, obviously if you're starting here, your clear risk is here. And, you know, I called 6s or 7s by close. And, you know, that's exactly what happened. And it winded. And And so, very, very simple setup. Obviously it wasn't going to go to 5s, that's too far, but fading towards 0 if you hold it 1 or 2 more days next week. Probably go 6s, why not? I think it will. I think on Monday you'll see 690s, 670s. But yeah, that was the opportunity on Yuan. Again, shorting 500 shares, 1,000 shares, adding to a winner. That was a massive opportunity, $2,000. And so, really, guys, the point I'm trying to make here, and get this video under 30 minutes. This is just showing a slower week. This is showing 10 opportunities that I identified as 90% setups. This is me explaining the why, the news, the technicals, the very simple, the time frames, the who, why I'm confident, what the risk levels are, what the key target levels are, and so yeah, I'm not saying buy or sell. Here this one was a little more specific time frame when the entry was, but generally speaking, something like ONTX or other stocks, I'm not saying when to do it or how to do it or when to add or when to cover or when to start. I'm literally just saying, hey, here's a stock, here's where it belongs, here's a clear risk, and it's going to fade. And so how you trade that, big, small, win, whatever, that's up to you. So if you're a successful trader, here's another idea for you to add to your arsenal to make more money. If you're a learning trader, learn why. Learn why this was a good setup. Learn why it's right 90% of the time, and and benefit from that. Become an independent trader, build your account, and do other things. And if you're struggling to trade these, trying to figure out when to enter and how to hold it, and when to add, when to pay yourself, then we can meet and see if I'm good for mentorship. And there's different levels of mentorship that I put there in the different services tabs. So, but anyways, those are 10 clear examples. Just quickly going through it, we made about 1,000 HGSH, 1,000 ULBI, 500 MITO, I don't know, 500 something ONTX, a couple times. CPSH was a nice 800, plus the second day of 600, 1,500. You own a couple thousand. So I don't know, I'm not really keeping track, but it's somewhere around 8,000, 10,000 on a small account, risking $100 to $300 per trade, using 500 to 1,000 shares on each name, doing a simple entry, add, cover. And that's it, guys. Very simple, very clear, very confident. And that's what I'm trying to do here at Foresight, and that's what I'm trying to bring to the table and trying to bring the community together around that. We obviously trade a lot more stuff. We do long swings. We do long stocks. Like this could have been a long here potentially, but that's not a 90% setup. The Foresight scan service does scan everything during the night. So other movers as well. Like I'm looking at SPY, I'm looking at EVXY, I'm looking at all the different movers, AMC, all those things, and we do trade those. But the real service behind this is the 90% setups. And so if you don't want to trade everything else, if you just want to trade these, you want to build your account, you want to learn, you just want extra ideas, I believe for $35, a month, for someone to show you that this is here as a 90% setup, it is a steal. And so you're basically taking 10 years and 30,000 hours of screen time from me, and taking that in seconds and just seeing what I can do with it. So that is a service you are paying for, including the chat, access to the chat, to the scans, and everything else that comes with that. So I'm looking forward to meeting more of you guys and finding another 12, 20 setups a week and showing you those. And they're very exciting, and they're always there, and they're always confident and sure. So have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you very much for watching, and any questions, please let me know and shoot me up a follow on Twitter.